Well, comrades, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the first meeting of the Administrative Council and to congratulate the people who have been elected by annual conference and the people who have been nominated by the party leader as parliamentary representatives.
Last week, Michael D Higgins, ex-senator and unsuccessful parliamentary candidate in 4 different elections, presided over his first meeting of the Labour Party's ruling body, the Administrative Council. The post of party chairman certainly carries prestige and status, but it's a position that pales beside the acquisition of those elusive 2 letters that Higgins has sought after for almost 10 years now, TD. But for a left-winger in a party that has lurched steadily to the right, his election was no mean achievement. Higgins came to Galway in 1960 as a clerk in the local ESB office. 2 years later, he enrolled in UCG and worked his way through an outstanding college career that has extended onto the academic level. Today, he lectures in sociology in the college. It's a little surprising that Michael D, urbane, sophisticated, very obviously middle class, comes from rural County Clare. He was in fact raised there by an aunt and uncle after his own father fell into bad health. There's a bitterness to his memories of those early days, and no one could accuse him of having a romantic vision of Irish country life.
I can remember what it meant to be reared by somebody other than one's parents, the business of living in bad conditions in the rural area, in the sense of having my people belonging to me who were being ill, of what it meant to be isolated, of what it meant to be in the sense of being at a hard remove from school, of the long trek to school every day. At secondary level, I think I remember about cycling 9 miles to and from Innis and that kind of thing. There are positive sides to it, as I said, which I remember. Looking back on it, I think that things that have been most valuable to me has been as a corrective against the usual notion of rural simplicity, which people have had. And I think that I can remember very many of the real difficulties that people who have to farm on farms like we had have had to overcome. That has been valuable.
Paradoxically, his first involvement in party politics was a brief term as chairman of University College Galway, Fianna Fáil coming. He first ran as a Labour candidate in Galway West in 1969, amassing 1,100 votes. Last time out, he got over 5,000. Not quite enough to win a seat, but certainly he feels that next time out must be make or break. Throughout the coalition period, Higgins moved steadily to the left, and today the former Senate nominee of Liam Cosgrave is intractably opposed to coalition pacts, believing that Labour has suffered immeasurably by its involvement in government with Fine Gael.
I think it has had a terrible time in a number of ways, as it had to cut back its socialist programme. It has lost membership. It lost, I think, a certain amount of credibility to some extent, and this was reflected in its ability to capture a significant proportion of the young vote, which one would have hoped for. I think that one is better being quite factually honest about that. And what it has to do now, I think, this time, is that when it starts this time, it has to first of all make sure that there is an unequivocal commitment to policies that are themselves unambiguous and practical. And I think that the practical policies for the Labour Party at this time are socialist policies, and that it simply cannot be seen to waver from that path. And if it does so, to my mind, it will have lost ground again. And I really believe that the Labour Party is poised in a very exciting time, that it can develop, but that it will not develop unless we are straightforward in what we're aiming for.
Just taking up some of your remarks, do you believe that the party was equivocal and was ambiguous in its policies?
Well, of course it was. Any social party that's involved with a Conservative party cannot be representing. The nature of coalitions is that one loses one's programme. But there was this to the 69 programmes, I think, that you were referring to as euphoric. I don't think euphoria is a good basis for a socialist party. The appeal of socialism is in its rationality. The fact is that the Labour Party will have to go into elections, and the kind of questions it will be facing from young people are: what is the Labour Party going to do about the jobs crisis? What is the Labour Party going to do about housing? What is the Labour Party going to do about the health service? What's it going to do about the environment? What is a socialist definition of culture? Even though the party was founded in 1912, we haven't been seen at all times to be pursuing a single-minded radical course. And this means that we have indeed some people who think that the purpose of the Labour Party is the replacement of Fianna Fáil, and simply that. My own view is that, quite frankly, that people can't afford the luxury of that kind of politics, of having a third Conservative party or a second Conservative option.
Well, just how great is the ideological difference between yourself and the party leadership then?
There is, I think, this difference between spokesmen on the economy within the Labour Party, and we'd better be careful about this. My own opinion is that I don't believe that you can provide jobs, that you can provide houses, that you can run the health services, while you, in fact, retain the model of creaming off exploitative profits. You simply have to grasp that nettle. And I simply don't believe in the idea of state companies having to exist in loss-making activities side by side with private enterprise firms that are there for the fastest possible return of profit. We know that that's what creates unemployment when profit levels are cut back and people, therefore, unemployment happens. We know what has happened, particularly here in this city, and why we can't provide houses, because no one wants to interfere with what is referred to as the rights of the individuals to make speculative profits. I simply don't believe in the model of the mixed economy. I think that, frankly, that a truly planned economy that would produce the kind of wealth which would remove anxiety on all of these areas from the people would require ownership and control over the principal means of wealth in the country, including particularly the banking system and the credit system. And that's simply that.
Well, you work very closely with what I think could be accurately termed as the revolutionary left of the party. Do you consider yourself to be a revolutionary?
I think that it's important to understand the meaning of that term. Yes is the answer to your question. But I think it's important to understand the full meaning to that, is that I don't believe, frankly, that putting a Labour person into a Minister for Economic Planning at the present time will provide us with the jobs we need, will end unemployment. That putting a Labour person into the Ministry for the Environment will put an end to speculation. I believe that you have to change the economic structure fundamentally. It will require, for example, making sure that the great vast resources of the banking system are used to provide jobs that will be, for example, involved in construction, in building houses. That is turning the economic system quite contrary to its present structure.
The party recently opened a full-time centre overlooking Eyre Square, and it's this type of effort that could bring in the extra votes so desperately needed if Higgins is ever to secure a Dáil seat. One of the best organised and most active Labour Party branches in the country is located here in Galway. Most of the younger party supporters, like Higgins, view themselves as revolutionaries. In fact, Higgins' election manifesto was infinitely more radical than that of his former party colleague Noel Brown. It's no secret that many in the party would have been much happier with a less radical party chairman. Many of the members in Galway have often been very openly vocal in their criticisms of the party hierarchy. But if anyone is to get a seat for Labour west of the Shannon, it will be Michael D.